We take you to this now. The ANC is currently providing a comprehensive update to the media regarding the outcomes of its ANC NEC gathering this past weekend. And the briefing primarily centers around key concerns like persistent power shortages and the presence of undocumented immigrants in the country. Let's take you live with the first Deputy Secretary General, that's Nomvula Mkonyane, has started speaking.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We have had the deliberations, and out of the discussions of the NEC, amongst other things that we wish to share is that as the organization we've been involved in a number of activities on the diplomatic front. On this front, our subcommittee on international relations hosted a number of political parties and foreign missions to forge collaborations and cooperation in various fields. These parties and civil society organizations involved the FES of Germany, Rally for Hopists for Democracy and Peace from Ivory Coast, and Union for Democracy and Social Progress from the Democratic Republic of Congo, and other foreign missions and progressive organizations across the globe. These interactive processes reside on our pillar of creating a better Africa and a better world as we forge alliances, build party-to-party relationships, and intra-party relations, bilateral and multilateral relations to deepen internationalism, solidarity, peace, and friendship as advocated by the Freedom Charter and the founding principles of the African Union and the Agenda 2063 of the African Union. When all these were happening, directed to a greater goal of building a new global order-based partnership, the global lens is focusing on South Africa as we will be hosting the historic 2023 BRICS Political Party Plus Dialogue under the theme BRICS and Africa, Partnership for Mutually Accelerated Growth, Sustainable Development and Inclusive Growth. This dialogue will bring progressive civil society movement, political parties, and former state presidents to tackle and unravel complex issues that affect the globe. These issues range from global change, famine, poverty, disease, food security, information technology to industrialization, the International Criminal Court, sovereignty and territorial integrity, and the Sustainable Development Goals, transformation of global financial institutions, the impact of the dwindling value of the dollar as the international reserve currency, the escalating war between Russia and Ukraine, which has debilitating effects on the global economy. Other topical issues on the agenda is NATO expansionism, the geopolitical shift towards a new paradigm of collaboration, and the diplomatic policy of dialogue and cooperation for mutual growth and shared prosperity. The dialogue repositions our country, South Africa, as an important role player and change catalyst in the global arena. This is a quantum leap to a world of interaction and common agenda of development and technological advancement, food security as opposed to militarization, investment in hardware and artillery and wars. The dialogue will focus on the following key areas: on global peace and security, on inclusive multilateralism, on strengthening BRICS and expanding its membership, and lastly, partnership for mutually accelerated growth, sustainable development, BRICS and Africa. The dialogue will commence on the 18th and end on the 21st of July 2023. The details are as follows. Our President, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, the President of the ANC, will do the opening and welcome address. This will be followed by solidarity messages from leaders of delegations from BRICS political parties, the Chinese Communist Party, the Communist Party of Russia, Indian Congress Party, and Workers' Party of Brazil. The dialogue will culminate in the tour of Soweto and the Maruping Cradle of Humankind to expose South Africa to the world of our rich history, culture, and traditions, and the power of tourism in economic development and fostering friendship and a common bond of humanity. There will also be a series of outreach programs that will be hosted to ensure that various sectors of civil society are not excluded from participating in the BRICS program. These include a seminar that will be hosted in UNISA in the coming week, targeting academia and other stakeholders. The second activity will be the Finance and Trade Colloquium, hosted by the Progressive Business Forum on the 13th of July 2023, targeting the business community and the financial sector. This dialogue is based on internationalism, pillars and resolutions of our 55th National Conference as the ANC. The ANC will continue to work towards a multipolar world order wherein national sovereignty is not undermined. We'll work with progressive forces in the world by focusing on the implementation and realization of the goals of Agenda 2063 for Africa and the world we want. The African Continental Free Trade Area presents an opportunity to improve trade on the continent and promote investment in critical sectors. This entails partnering with the New Development Bank and other multilateral institutions in the world in the area of cooperation and development. This is a gravitation towards a new global model of sustainable development. BRICS is a catalytic and change instrument to contribute to global development. Through these relationships, as President Ramaphosa declared, we cannot be beggars in the land of plenty. South Africa and countries of the world are sovereign states whose borders, territorial integrity are non-negotiable. The world cannot be bullied into submission. A new beginning is on the horizon, transformative winds blowing from all directions to usher a new democratic order. BRICS will grow into one of the biggest trading and political blocs in the world. This dialogue is testimony to a new beginning, blessed by the presence of elderly and eminent statesmen and stalwarts of the liberation struggle. The presence of some of the eminent persons such as Comrade Joaquim Chissano of Mozambique, Olusegun Obasanjo of Nigeria, Sam Nujoma of Namibia, and Laurent Gbagbo of Ivory Coast amongst the esteemed guests who will touch the South African soil, will promote the spirit of internationalism and a quest for a better Africa and a better world. The dialogue will be attended by more than 54 political parties from different corners of the world. The dialogue is a major boost for the ANC and for our country, South Africa. It repositions and places the ANC at the forefront of international struggles. Its attempts to mediate peace between Russia and Ukraine and to mitigate the effects of the war on the global economy, bolstering global South relations and new alliances and partnerships. The ANC welcomes all delegates and political leaders from all corners of the world to change history and build a world devoid of human persecution, indignity, famine, and wars. That is the spirit of how the ANC views the coming BRICS meeting and its outcomes. Thank you very much, Comrade Mahlengi.
Thank you very much, DSG, for that comprehensive outline. I will at this point invite members of the media who wish to ask questions. I will start here with the SABC.
Sophie Kwena from the SABC. On the issue of NATO, you spoke about the ANC's concern around the expansion of NATO. Today, we know that NATO is preparing for a big summit that starts tomorrow. What is your message to that important gathering, knowing that ANC is a governing party in South Africa and the government is under pressure in terms of the foreign policy, the non-aligned position on the war in Ukraine? The second issue is the ICC. In the ANC, what are the discussions around the International Criminal Court? And finally, our neighbor, Zimbabwe, will be going to elections. We know that particularly ANC and ZANU-PF as the sister parties. What is your message at this critical time where many people are already raising concerns around the political climate as part of the build-up to this important election. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I turn this side? Yes, over to you, my brother.
Good morning, Kosnati Shazi from Power FM News. So the Russian government, through their state broadcaster, Russian TV, announced that they will be introducing a BRICS currency backed by gold. In your speech, Ms. Nomvula, you mentioned that this is a new democratic order. So I just wanted to find out, with this new BRICS currency, is it seen as a currency that's meant to combat the dollar, or is it seen as a currency just to enhance the control of the BRICS bloc? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please proceed.
Thank you so much. DSG, what is the position of the ANC with regard to the expansion of BRICS members? Has there been a discussion with regard to that? Thank you.
I will take those, DSG, if you may go ahead and respond.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for the questions. The issue of the NATO conference, we note that NATO has opted to convene that conference, a very significant conference. We hope that in those deliberations there will be an appreciation that cessation of hostilities across the world is very key. And that dominance of military interventions in any area of conflict does not bring a peaceful solution, and it harms primarily women and children. It destroys the future of any country. And in that process, we also believe that they will reflect on what has been the historical resolutions around NATO's expansion, and be in a position to respect the institutions of multilateralism, the resolutions at the UN, but also what was then resolved with the collapse of the Soviet Union then, and the respect of sovereignty. We do believe that there is no other way that the ANC can see this not as another attempt of bolstering dominance, as compared to helping to find an everlasting solution. We still believe that it is only through peaceful dialogue and negotiations, bringing all parties together, that there can be a way forward. And therefore we don't expect that conference to be a conference again of trying to showcase the might and the dominance of again, aggression as compared to negotiations. Hence, we welcomed the work that has been done by the leaders, that included our President, Comrade Ramaphosa, and the work that we're doing also as the ANC, working with other organizations, of interacting with the communities and civil society from both Russia and Ukraine. So we will await the outcomes of that. But the issue of being non-aligned, historically we have remained non-aligned, not only because of any relationship that we hold with Russia today, but because of our own historical perspective around the issues of a unipolar world against nations, as well as our own experience of exploitation and colonialism, as well as just the arrogance of those who assume if you say you are non-aligned, it means you have taken sides. We have not taken sides, and hence you can see also through the actions of our own government, all parties have been listened to, and all parties have been given the same observations that we are making and what we believe can be a solution to what is happening in the world. And therefore we are not faced by being accused of being non-aligned. I think it is the correct decision that the movement has actually taken, including our own government. We've come from a 55th National Conference. We have a resolution to review to remain, yes, in the ICC, but review our participation there. There are processes that are unfolding without undermining such bodies, because again we must guard against the situation where we do not participate. Our issue is about transforming those institutions and make sure that they are fair, they are consistent, and they are impartial in terms of how they deal with issues. So our intention as the African National Congress is that applies to the developed countries must also apply to the underdeveloped countries. The respect for democracy has to be respected, and most importantly also the respect for local laws. Our own laws as nations have to be respected, and hence, because we domesticated the statute, the Rome Statute, as South Africa, we will remain in the ICC. We will remain, but that does not mean we must remain quiet, even as we see how it gets abused for other motives, without making sure that there's consultation and that the affected parties are also listened to. We come from that history, and hence we remain quite concerned about that. The issues around Zimbabwe, if there's anything that we're looking forward to in the immediate, in the space of elections, it's free and fair elections in Zimbabwe, and that every Zimbabwean must exercise his or her right to choose a government of his choice. 3, that these elections must actually be free and fair, such that anyone who is Zimbabwean must be given the right to express him or herself. And hence we support the observer missions that are in Zimbabwe, and we believe that it is only through them, those bodies, that will get proper reports and feedback as to what exactly is taking place. And everyone who is concerned and affected, let us use those bodies to then express our own observations about the elections in Zimbabwe. A peaceful election in Zimbabwe can also be a good lesson to us as we go to the elections in the next, a few months from now. So, and it would also be a peaceful election in Zimbabwe can also signal prosperity for Zimbabwe. And hence, we wish that everything must be in line with the intentions of fostering democracy, the right to choose, and the respect for citizens' choices without actually harassment and so on. So that's how we see the elections, and we support the observer missions that are there in Zimbabwe, and through them we will continuously get feedback in the processes in Zimbabwe. The BRICS currency, dollarization of trade in the globe has demonstrated that it does not work. And amongst other realities is that the formation of BRICS is also about consolidating our capacity in terms of trade amongst ourselves, in terms of growing the global economy, and also making sure that we do away with the issues around dominance of one against many. We must diversify the trading currencies in the globe. Let's diversify and give the world options and choices. And I think what Russia has said is but one of the issues that is going to be a subject in the meeting of BRICS in August. We will be putting recommendations out of the meeting of political parties for our heads of state then to consider that. There's been different working groups looking at these issues. Those recommendations will also emerge when the declaration of this meeting of political parties end. And our comrades here from communication will continuously give you an update around these particular deliberations. The expansion of BRICS, it also again shows that the world is not static, and the geopolitics themselves are not static. it is a responsibility that the founding parties in BRICS have to look at. We welcome that initiative of the deliberations. Consultations are taking place, and also a criteria is being worked out. We also note that others are not necessarily interested in being members of BRICS, but participating in terms of access to the development bank, which again brings another new opportunity in terms of diversifying the financial institutions in the world. And that is one of the immediate things that we need to actually embrace. So that expansion has to be looked at in two folds: access and development of alternatives, but also the realization that we can't actually be a one-size-fits-all system in the world. There has to be diversification.
Thank you, DSG. I'm going to take a second round of hands, maybe give priority to the late bloomer, Tando, and then it will be you, Junior, and then I'll come back to Osoki. Tando?
Good morning, DSG. Just on the expansion of BRICS and the considerations that will be taking place at the dialogue, we do know that BRICS is just a block of emerging markets. But we do also know that some developed nations are also looking into perhaps coming to the BRICS summit in August, or either being a part of the emerging markets bloc. Will the ANC, or is the ANC a trade bloc of only emerging markets?
Okay, got that one. Thanks so much. Junior?
Junior Kumalo from Newsroom Africa. You spoke about 54 political parties from across the globe participating in this. Are there any political parties from South Africa that have been invited? If not, what is the rationale behind that?
Thank you. Sophie?
Yes, within these 54 political parties, are these the parties that have a relationship currently with the ANC? I'm talking about sister parties. But also, are these parties in government, or you have also invited the right-minded parties, particularly the socialist parties around the world, who are necessarily not in government currently, or it's just the governing parties or ruling parties?
I'm going to go with those, DSG.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much once more for the questions. In fact, it would work good for the emerging markets to collaborate with those that are established and developed markets, so that then we complement one another, because trade can only expand if you also create new ventures, new opportunities, and you also are able to access the resources from those that have amassed the resources over years. So the deliberations, including from ourselves as the ANC through our economic transformation committee, and the consultations in the country, including the dialogue that's going to happen this coming week, the colloquium. Our view is that there must be conditions. There must be conditions or a criteria that has to be set up, so that then you also do not have a takeover by stealth or dominance that then dilutes the historical mission. And we come from that experience about the anti-apartheid movement, that we were supported by those that were affected and those that identified with us beyond those that were affected like us. We also had nations that developed nations standing with us, embracing what we stand for. And I think that is the approach that the African National Congress is taking in this regard. The issue around other parties in South Africa, yes, it's the ANC. We are the hosts. We've extended an invitation to the Pan-African Congress of Azania, the PAC, as a former liberation movement itself. We've also included in these 54 parties, the ruling parties, as well as the former liberation movements, and the sister parties in the BRICS countries that are not in power. So that's the kind of invitation. This is a template that has been agreed upon. It's not even the decision of the ANC alone. It's a template. Remember, this is the second time that we host this kind of a gathering. So even when it was hosted in China the last time, that's how the invitations actually went out. You were asking about political parties. But in South Africa, additional to the political parties that are invited, we've also invited the South African Communist Party and SANCO, together with COSATU as our allies. Those are the ones that have been invited. We have civil society organizations that work very well with us on issues of peace and dialogue, such as the South African Women in Dialogue, that are doing a great deal of work in South Sudan and are working together with us in facilitating dialogue between the civil society organizations in Russia and in Ukraine. So it is that is defined as the guests that or participants that will be in this conference. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I want to assume that we are extensively covered, all of us. I see there's a brainwave from Gert. Proceed, Gert.
I just want to know from you, this is from speaking. Do you think progress has been made in the International Criminal Court as far as transformation goes?
All right, the ANC media briefing continues at the back of that NEC meeting this past weekend. The first DSG Nomvula Mkonyane tabling some of the outcomes from that meeting and answering a couple of questions. Just, I suppose, first and foremost, with regards to the NATO summit that is sitting, and just saying that it should not be a sitting of bolstering dominance, but one that observes peaceful dialogues. This making reference, obviously, to the Russia-Ukraine war that's currently taking place, but also saying that they will still await the outcome of that particular engagement by NATO, and given that credit to President Cyril Ramaphosa and other African heads of states heading out to Ukraine and Russia to bolster those peaceful talks and engagements, saying that they do believe that dialogue, through their experience as South African history, that dialogue is a way. They're saying they would not, as the ANC, be cornered to take sides. They would not be intimidated to take sides because the arrogance of that decision is that one particular side may think that, when you do take sides, then it means you're the enemy of the other, and saying that, historically they've shown that non-alliance actually does work for South Africa because of that historical perspective and experience that they say they do not want to be exploited in this regard. But also making mention of Zimbabwe, we know that the elections in Zimbabwe are expected to take place on the 23rd of August this year, with Nelson Chamisa prohibited from continuing on with his rallying campaign. But on the other hand, we saw ZANU-PF with their president Emmerson Mnangagwa going ahead with their campaign unhindered. So they're saying, as the ANC, that they would like to see a peaceful, a free and fair election out in Zimbabwe, giving Zimbabweans that freedom to select and elect their next government. However, they're saying that they do still continue to support observer missions in this regard, and they will await proper reports to inform them of what really is happening on the ground, and that can in turn, offer some support and also some guidelines in terms of South Africa's expected general elections only taking place next year, though. Other, conversations around their reviewing, their participating operating within the ICC came out during the briefing saying, the ANC saying they want to ensure that they continue to transform such organizations and they ensure that they do remain impartial, but also saying they will remain in the ICC, but they will not remain quiet. Where their voice is required, they will be sure to exercise that as members within the ICC. Of course, the Q&A is still continuing on with the ANC. First, DSG answering some of those questions to our media colleagues.